Alright, hello everybody. This is going to be a sort of follow-up to a video I uploaded a while ago where I just uploaded a VOD of me doing 100-man mystics with a friend, and that video got a lot more views than I expected, so I thought I'd do a more thorough guide. And actually, this is going to be live commentated, so, a little, maybe a little bit rough around the edges, but I think this will be a lot more useful than the previous video, and hopefully give you guys like anybody who's looking to do 100-man mystic stacking, a lot to go off of. So obviously starting out, why does someone want to stack 100-man mystic? So in this case, it's going to be for throwing Chinchampas for range XP. If you do 100-man mystics, you'll get like double the XP per Chinchampa, which can be really nice for Iron Man or whatever, or save money. And I just like doing it. Or if you're running 100-man raids, maybe some of the stuff in this video will be useful. I'm going to go in with the sort of underlying the expectation that you understand the basics of how the Mystics room works. But I'm going to try to explain a lot of the more things I see as advanced, things you wouldn't have picked up just doing a regular raid. And yeah, let's get into it. So first off, we have all of the accounts we'll be using and why. So this account, Inarticulate here, this is going to be one of our tanks. We'll call this the main tank. This is an account that can trade, and we're going to have Justiciar, as well as Masori, and a Lightbearer, Spec Transfer, and just Mage Defense. Crystal Shield I'm using. An Elysian is best in slot by a lot. An Elysian's really nice to have. I don't have one right now. Oh, Staff of the Dead we're also using. Staff of the Dead is important. The special attack on it, which reduces melee damage, is almost essential, so you're gonna need one of those. An Elysian is really nice if you have it. I don't have an Elysian on this account. It's probably not gonna make or break the run. If you see a cut after the pre-raid segment, it's because I fucked up or I just got like murdered. Happens sometimes when you're doing this method. Don't be afraid. Don't feel discouraged if you die. It's incredibly common. Yeah, and I didn't fill the inventory, so I'm going to do that right now. So the inventory setup I like taking for this account is 3 Restore, 1 Menophyte Remedy. Menophyte Remedy is not really necessary, but I find it very helpful. I like it, and then I'm going to take 3 sets of combo eats, 22 healing food in a Karam 1, and the rest brews. And of course, this account can trade, so some of the other accounts will be trading at brews, and maybe restores as needed. So that's our main tank. And then the second tank here, this is going to be where it's a little bit weird, just for what I have. This is my Iron Man. So this account can't trade, which is why it's sort of the off tank, despite it being the account with the Elysian. It's just the account I have. Just working with what I have here. Yeah, so this is going to be our second tank. It's going to be taking less damage. And so, it's important that we not run out of supplies on this account. But this account never even comes close to running out of supplies. So, yeah, 3 sets of combo eats here again. Basically identical inventory to the other one. I also to the main tank, but I also have Monster Exam in here. You don't really need it. It's just kind of nice. I'll explain why later. Yeah, and then this is a good time for me to show off this trick. If you click Enter Passage and then open your house menu, when the raid starts, you'll automatically go through. So I'm going to do that. And then move over to Inarticulate here. Inarticulate's the host, so I'm not going to do that. And then we'll move on to our spec transfers. So here we have Pork Bazaar. This account has a Soul Flame Horn. We are going to be using this. It's not really necessary, but I think you should have at least one. I'm going to be using 2, but just one's fine. And then Lightbearer, Spec Transfer, and extra brews and restores. We're not going to touch all of these, so I just filled the inventory. And then Bark Hazard, not to be confused with the guy. It's the exact same as Pork Bazaar. And that leaves us with Terratron. This is my ultimate. I'm just using this account because it's one of the accounts I have bonded. It has Spec Transfer, but no Lightbearer, unfortunately. This account is here to block, mostly. I'll get into blocking later on. Yeah. And it also has Spec Transfer, even though no Lightbearer, so it's half as effective. And that leaves us with the account that will be throwing chins. And this is also our special attacking account. So this inventory is probably the most complicated of them all. Here I've got melee gear. This is all for speccing down the mystics and a Lightbearer, because more spec is Spec is really the limiting factor once you've survived the lure here. So more spec's always great. And here we have chins to throw at the mystics, and we have a Dragon Warhammer as well as a Darklight. Arclight and Emberlight do the same thing. I just haven't gotten them on this account, you know, and a Bandos Godsword. So we're going to use all those to chicken the Mystic, if you will, just reducing all of its stats to 0. And then the range switch. I'm using Masori. I'm going to trade the Masori with one of the tanks because I only have one set. Doesn't really matter, right? Void is best in slot. I don't have Void on this account, and so I'm not going to be using it. Obviously I'm using Holy Wraps for prayer bonus just to make it less effort. If you have Van Braces and you're using Masori setup, those are obviously better. Yeah, and then let's talk about the potions. So the Divine Ranging Pots and the Prayer Regen, those are for during throwing chins, right? We want a range boost, and Prayer Regen just makes you have to click your Prayer Restore less often. And brews are to drain stats mostly. So during the specking phase, we're going to be draining strength to very low. I'm going to be draining it to like 1, 0. Doesn't really matter, right? You just there's just sections of the luring, like when you're doing Dragon Warhammers and Arclight, where the amount of damage you're doing doesn't change the amount of stats that you're draining off of the Mystic. So having lower strength means that you'll do less damage to it, and therefore can get more range XP out of it. So that's the methodology there. And you might notice that I have an Anguish, and I'm not using a blue salve to damage the Mystic. That's because a salve only applies to the first target. So like if you're throwing a Chinchampa and it hits 12 Mystics, the salve effect is only on the one that you clicked. All the other ones don't get a salve bonus. So Anguish is best in slot for this. So gonna want to use that. And then same case with the Ring of the Gods. Venator Ring's better, but I actually Desert Treasure 2 is the only quest I haven't done on this account. So yeah. And yeah, that explains the setups. So now let's get into the raid. Start it here. I'm going to be, for this first segment, I'm going to have the camera on inarticulate most of the time because this account has stuff to do first. So, no, I messed up. And yeah, just first, I just like moving all the accounts at once before I do anything. This whole segment, there's like a few like all of the luring, there's a few difficult parts, but it really is pretty segmented. So, you have like moments to take a breath, I'd say. Now we got a boulder. It's nice. It's nice. Yeah, these scavs can be a real pain in the ass, I'll say. Definitely can be annoying if they like are spawning, like if you're waiting to bring your characters in and they're just like sitting there hitting you. It can be very annoying. Boulder's nice to get, so now I'm just gonna move all the accounts here. Camera's still on inarticulate, good. Alright, so let's talk game plan going in. So, oh, I need to unhide the Mystics. Let me do that. I have them hidden on some accounts because it can be convenient. Especially sometimes there's a lot of NPCs stacked. Certain options get hidden, so hiding NPCs can fix that. But I don't want them hidden on this account, of course. So let me make sure that they're not hidden on all the accounts they shouldn't be. But so the game plan here is to get every Mystic here in this northwest corner. I should have mentioned this before I started the raid, but the layout that I scouted for, this is scaled to 100 man. Yeah, scaled to 100 man, just so they have the most HP possible, but that, of course, also makes them very dangerous. And we're going to be getting all 12 Mystics stacked in this top northwest section here. And then we're going to be pulling one Mystic out, which you'll see later, so I'm going to skim over it for now. And we're going to be reducing all the stats to 0 and then chinning it. So that is the plan. And to start out here, we want to get as many Mystics aggroed on this inarticulate account, our main tank, as possible. So to do that, we're going to run through all the way to the safe spot in the corner. Only one Mystic will be able to see you. And we're going to get it in melee mode, so you'll be taking no damage once you're there, but actually surviving that is the hard part. So that's what these combo eats are for. So before going in, I like to brew to 115, or yeah, brew to 115, drink the Menifite Remedy, which restores your stats, and then you're ready to go. And put on Mage Prey, Augury, and you should staff the dead spec here. I don't think it increases survival odds that much, but it is nice. Like, you don't take a ton of melees in this run through. And then just drinking brews, combo eat, put on a P-neck, combo eat again, put on another P-neck. Okay. And we lived. We lived. Sometimes you'll just get owned. It happens. Right? Don't get discouraged. And Staff the Dead spec's still up, so I want to make sure as many of these guys are in melee mode as possible. Yeah, like this guy's still maging me. Yeah, look, that melee hit for 33. It would have been like 66 if there was no Staff the Dead. Okay, look, now, cool. All these guys are meleeed on me. That's good. We have 4 Mystics that are not in melee mode as far as I can tell. So that's the 3 stragglers on this west side here that you can see right here. And 1 guy caught all the way over there. Where the cursor is, it's not loaded, but it's there, trust me. Yeah, so now the second tank, jacked. Now this account is just going to sit here now. Inarticulate, the main tank. Now we'll go to our second tank, which is jacked. This account is going to get those 4 mystics away from to the stacking spot. So, you know, we're going to do the same thing. You don't need to staff the dead spec if you're careful here. But, you know, put on Prey Mage and Augury, and some of these guys might aggro. Yeah, look, one of them did. It's because that guy wasn't in melee mode, I believe. That's why we got all those ones over there in melee mode after surviving the run-through, so that they wouldn't then start attacking this account. And yeah, that guy could have, you know, that guy can hit for a lot, so be proactive with brewing. And we're going to also aggro this one. Get it in melee mode. Yep. And now we're going to get safe spot him. And here's a really convenient trick that you really do want to use. We're going to bring another account in. I'm bringing Bark Hazard in. And now this account is going to start blocking. So blocking is a really important concept here. I'm going to try to explain as I go. Basically, because Bark Hazard is currently blocking. If another player stepped on Bark Hazard's tile, this tile right here, they would stop blocking. And what blocking means, right, is I'll demonstrate. So here's Jacked. Jacked's gonna run through and not step on the tile that Bark Hazard's on. And now look, these guys can't move. Perfect. And that makes it so it's really easy for us to bring over these 2 other mystics without having the other ones give any trouble. I should have hit this other one, but we'll just do 2 at a time. It's nice to do 1 at a time. It makes it so, you know, things can't break as much. And the Deadman All-Stars is on right now. But I'm recording this video. If these guys ever, like, usually you just want to stand in line of sight, and these guys will, I gotta be careful. Okay, usually you want to stand in line of sight to get these guys to melee you if they're maging. If that doesn't work, running under them until they, like, random path move can be beneficial sometimes. Yeah, but sometimes they're just really weird. So here we want to be careful to not get murdered. I'm going to step past Bark Hazard, and then I'm going to step here. That could have gone a lot more poorly than it did. Cool, and then now I didn't show it, but I moved Bark Hazard to be blocking this 3rd mystic. So now I'll go back to Jacked. I can get back to full health. Right, and then I'm going to try to do this only tanking as little as possible. Okay, so I tanked 1 punch, 2 punches, hit a 0. Okay, and then 1 more. Cool. Alright, now just getting full health, because I didn't use the Staff of the Dead spec here. It would have been a lot easier if I used Staff of the Dead, and you probably should, honestly. And then we'll move this last one here. Right, and here's our safe spot. We're going to stand here for a lot of the time. And then now, move Bark Hazard here. This count's going to stay here for basically the rest of the raid. But now, Jacked is in a safe spot, so this count doesn't have to do anything. And we're going to move in the rest of our accounts. So, that means, right, we're going to have Terratron coming in, as well as Pork Bazaard and Scaweepwa. And we're going to get our dancers set up, so I'll go over the dancer pattern. Let's see, I usually have which account's actually going to be doing the input. Okay. Yeah, so here, oh, if you look, Scareweebla is actually blocking Terratron, I think. Oh no, I just followed the wrong account. I don't know what I was thinking. That's not a thing. Players don't block players. um, okay, so the dance pattern is like this. Just this pattern is the one you want for this layout. And then follow. And this is another time where it's nice to have them hidden, because, you know, the menu options, there's just fewer of them. Makes it a lot easier. So now these guys are dancing. You can see there's now 2 mystics stacked, which is great. We're gonna get all 4 of them here first. So I'm gonna, but let me show the account perspective. I'm gonna switch over onto Jacked, and I'm gonna switch to my melee switch. This is the melee switch is for this section, because right, they're not gonna be maging you as much, and the melee defense starts mattering more. So I'm gonna step in here. I should staff the dead spec here. I'm gonna do it just for the video. Honestly, most of the time I don't, because the death odds are kind of not high here. But I'm gonna step in. But I was getting chanced if I didn't staff the dead spec. I think that was technically a chance too. Yeah, so like these guys just do insane damage. Just keep that in mind. And like basically every good Mystic setup still gets chanced sometimes. I think it's really important to keep in mind. It's like what I was saying earlier, just don't get discouraged. Yeah, and like like the ideal setup probably uses 3 tanks, but you know you just have to work with the accounts you have. So if you don't have a lot of accounts, I would suggest trying this with a friend. It'll make it a lot easier. And yeah, I would definitely say use 2 tanks. I've seen some people advocate for using 1 tank, but I'm not a fan. I think it's just too RNG, and you know you get chanced a lot worse. You know, like you have way higher odds of dying. But you know, just find what works for you really as well. So listen to me as much as it helps. Yeah, and then now we have a waiting segment, so I'll pause the recording because I'm just gonna wait for spec to regen because that's what we need for the next step. While I'm waiting for spec, I will say Bark Hazard here with all those brews I brought in. Now I'm gonna ferry him over to Inarticulate. Might not even touch all these brews, but you know, might as well. So I'm just gonna drop them like so, and some restores. And then as well, the position of Bark Hazard here is intentional. I like keeping, you know, I like being very safe with my blockers, so having this tile blocked means that now that we have 4 mystics stacked here, if this section's blocked, you know, we're not gonna have a mystic moving like here, so it's like in these 4 tiles where my mouse is. That would really not be what you want, and that could be really bad. So having a blocker here, just good for peace of mind, simplicity, and so on. All right, now my spec is regen, so I'm going to switch over to Inarticulate, who has the next step, and I'm going to pick up all these brews and stuff. And yeah, so this next segment is going to go a little bit fast. So before I start it, I'm actually going to go back to the iron just to get everything ready. So, right, this account has spec ready, wearing melee armor, is overhealed with magic, not drained, just to make all the damage taken as low as possible. And I'm going to put on Prey Mage and Augury right now. You know, we got a long time on it. And I'm going to hit the Staff of the Dead spec. Not yet, but, you know, you can hit it now if you're not feeling super confident. If you're like, it's a lot of inputs, right? And then next is Inarticulate is going to be wearing Masori, because we're going to be getting maged here quite possibly. I think wearing Justy here wouldn't be that much worse, but going to overheal again, Menify Remedy again. You know, just best survivability as possible. Have a P-neck on. Great, I actually never used one. It's crazy. Yeah, and then Staff of the Dead spec for half melee damage. That's very important. If you don't do that, you can just die. Like, I'd already be dead, potentially. Alright, now this guy's maging. Gotta make sure he stops maging. I don't know if I have LOS. Alright, now everybody's meleeing. I guess not. Okay, now everybody's meleeing. Now I'm getting over to the safe spot, and I'm gonna get overhealed again. Store my stats, put on my melee armor, go here on both accounts. I actually messed up. I didn't do the Staff of the Dead spec on the iron, so I stepped out. But here, you're just gonna, whenever you take a lot of damage, step out, and only step in when you have the Staff of the Dead spec. So a lot of accounts are tanking melees from these 100-man mystics, which hit really hard. And spam brewing should not be dying very often. If it takes you 2 Staff of the Dead cycles to get this part, that's fine. You know, It's better that you don't lose a raid. Like here, I just got pretty low on inarticulate, so I'm gonna wait, and that's fine. And, turning off prayers, restoring stats. I have enough supplies on the iron to finish the stacking, but I'd rather not get chanced, and I feel like it's always the best way to do it. It's tilting to lose a raid, and if you're doing many raids in a row, you can scout the next one while you're throwing the chins, and you sort of lose that if you fail a raid, so that always feels bad. So yeah. While I'm waiting for spec before I pause the recording, one note I have is on the jacked account here. Um, this toxic Staff of the Dead is uncharged. Really important that you do this because if your Staff of the Dead is charged, you can Venom a Mystic when you're like tagging it to aggro it, and then it's going to be tanking like a lot of damage over the time that you're throwing chins. It can be actually over 1,000. So definitely keep that in mind and be wary of it. Yeah, and this whole process, I could do it a lot faster if I wasn't explaining as I go. Because you might be wondering, like, why is this even worth it? Am I actually gonna get better XP per hour? If you're fast, you will get better XP per hour than doing Monkey Madness 2 chinning, no doubt. Especially if you have a lot of spec transfers. I would say I could probably shave like a good amount of time off this if I even had one or two more. It's kind of just like awkward with the way it works, but yeah. Yeah, so now I'm just waiting for spec on this iron account, and yeah, when I'm stepping in on both the accounts to stack them up, I'm just drinking brews constantly basically and stepping out if I see if my health goes below like 50 or 60. I got down to 20 on inarticulate. That's because I was being a little sloppy. Um, yeah, I'll pause for like 15 seconds now. Okay, I have spec again, so right, I'm gonna overheal before I go in, restore stats, get my prayers up, spec. Same on the other account. Stats up. And step in. Alright, and now they're all stacked up. I'm gonna go back to brewing so I don't die. Put on Masori, because you're taking mage hits now. And just keep brewing. Yeah, this is where, things like the second Ellie, and even having an Ellie really come in handy. That segment's like the part where the Ellie is probably the most impactful, because if you really do the math on it, even though the odds are really low you die, you're almost always getting chanced there, which is just not what you want. And right, Inarticulate has my Masori, so now I'm going to trade very carefully, because remember, Inarticulate has several Mystics aggroed on him, so these accounts, like, these tanks should not be moving right now. But I'm going to go on Scare Bruh. Well, actually, I got my order of operations a little bit wrong here. So now, we're getting ready to spec down the Mystic. So, in preparation for that, let's move our blockers. Let's get all the blockers in place. So, Bark Hazard here is going to be our top blocker. Wait, no. Bark Hazard's this north blocker. Let's see. Pork Bazaar is one of our dancers right now, but is now one of our blockers. And I'm also going to drop some restores for throwing the chins just right now. This is the tile that I'll be throwing chins from, so you can just drop them now. Makes it easier. You can also trade the blockers while you're throwing chins, and that's usually not a problem, but this is just a little bit safer and easier. So, and I'm going to move Terratron away. And then I like moving a few times side to side just to make sure the tile's not nulled, like meaning that it's not blocking anymore. So now I feel pretty comfortable, so I've done it a few times. Same on the other account. And then we're going to go over to Terratron. Terratron's going to be blocking here. This blocker is not essential, but I really do recommend it, because it just makes it so, it idiot-proofs it, is what I like to say. Makes it so there's like just another way that you won't lose the run. Because like, you're going to be pulling a Mystic out here on this 4 tiles where my mouse is over. And then you don't want it to be able to move in this direction. So keeping this blocker here makes it safer. Right? And so now all of our blockers are in place. So it's time to get ready to spec. So this account, we're going to brew down, just spam brews. And then once I've drank enough brews, I'm going to trade the Masori over for inventory, because I needed the inventory space for potions. Just how it works out. I think it's like 4 or 5 brews you gotta drink. If you really care about like the money, you probably, like drain your stats a little bit less, or even not at all. But I don't really care that much. All right, and then yeah, once our strength is down to 0, we're gonna boost our attack up because we want to be able to hit but not do damage. All right, and now it's time to trade inarticulate, and then do the trade on inarticulate. Very careful, just so nothing goes wrong. All right, and now I have my Masori for when it's time to throw. So next, we're gonna do Dragon Warhammers. You still want to be careful of the Mystic at this point. Also, I need to unhide it. I can't see it right now. There we go. Yeah, so you still want to be careful. Keep in mind, this is still a 100-man Mystic. You know, it can damage you. Be ready to brew or heal other yourself. I do like keeping heal other on some of the accounts just because it's convenient to have. I think like 3 of the accounts here have it, both the tanks and Terratron. Yeah, and then we're going to horn the first 8 specials. That's what I like doing. It's not really a science to it. You know, do what you like. And then, so here, I'm clicking the spec on Pork Bazaar to horn myself, right? So now I have a horn, hammer hits. And I'm going to move over here. It's maging me a little bit. Oh, auto retail's on. Be careful. And then, you know, Terratron didn't get nulled, but I'm just going to move back and forth just to be safe. If Terratron got nulled, it already would have been fucked up. And we're going to keep doing that. So just spec again, horn myself. And now I need a transfer, so this is when you start transferring yourself. I'm sure you guys can figure this part out. But I'll just go through like a little bit of it. And we're going to be doing so 3 hammers, and then we're going to start dark lighting, arc lighting. So another horn. There we go. And now I need another transfer. Keep in mind, all these mystics are still aggroed on our tank, so other than the one that we've pulled out. And then horn again. I'm going kind of slow, so I got 5 horns on Pork Bazaar, but normally I'd get like 4 horns on each of these accounts, and then we're good. Yeah. And then just move to this diagonal tile so he can't melee me, because the melees still hit pretty hard. His attack and strength are not drained that much. But then here on this tile, I'll be able to horn from this account. And there we go. And that's and we're going to be doing 3 Warhammers, 20 Dark Lights, and 400 BGS damage. And yeah, so I would generally horn the first 3 Warhammers and first 5 Dark Lights. I like doing that because it reduces the variance. I think around like maybe after the 3rd or 4th Arclight, depending on like, the exact gear setup you're using, it probably becomes statistically not worth it to keep horning. But if you ever had a bunch of Arclights miss in a row, like, you know how nice the horn is. So that's just what I like. But at this point, just keep specking, and I'm gonna pause until the specking's done. One other thing I forgot to mention: these prayer pots are not here by mistake. Restores will drain or will boost your strength back up. So don't forget to bring some prayer pots in your spec account setup. And you also, the account that's throwing the chins does not need to be the account that's specking. That's just how I have it set up right now. There's a lot of ways to do this right. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Yeah, and then also keep in mind we're never stepping on the tiles or any of these blockers are on, because that will instantly stop them from blocking. So you need to be pretty precise with your clicks here. Like, you know, I'm clicking here, here, here on the spec account, and I'm not clicking on other accounts. Yeah, I misclicked and tanked to melee, but that's fine. But if I clicked here, it would have broken the whole thing. So yeah. Okay, now I've just hit the 20th Darklight. So this guy should have no defense, right? The Warhammers were just so the Arclights hit, by the way. Because the Warhammers reduce the defense, and then the Arclights reduce all of the melee stats. So, yeah, now this guy should have basically 0 melee stats. They do regen stats. I'm going to get into why that matters momentarily here, but now it's time to get ready for BGSing. So we have to do damage with BGS. It's just how it works. So I'm going to restore my strength up, and then hit a super combat. You can drink a divine if you want. You know, not going to make a big difference. And yeah, going to start specking here. And we're going for around 400. Here is where Monster Inspect is really nice, because depending on how long it took you, you know, just depending on how many transfers you have or how lucky you got with your hits, it could have drained, or it could have regened more. So like here, I've hit 23, and it's got 366, but every time You know, every time it regens stats once, that's 5 more damage, BGS damage you have to do, because it gets 1 attack, defense, strength, magic, and range. So yeah, that is a factor there. So it's nice to have Monster Inspect on at least one account. Um, yeah, and yes, now we're just gonna get the magic down to 0, so it has no defense and it's not a threat at all. So come back when we're done spec into BGS. All right, now I've hit 394, so let's do a monster inspect, see what it's looking like. Still got 26 magic, and none of my specs are up. I like not having to watch my HP, so I'm gonna wait to send one more. If you're more looking at the computer, or especially if you're using Masori actually like I am, because Masori's got that good defense. It's fine to leave the magic with some number on it, but um, yeah, you know, use your discretion. All right, I just hit a big BGS, so this guy's definitely a 0 stats on everything. So now it's time to start chinning, and I will tell everything that goes with that. So I'm going to switch into all my chinning gear, and I'm going to move my dark light to where it's accessible, and I'm going to step diagonal, diagonal, make sure I have all these restores. Good to go. Mage Prayer, Rigor. Mage Prayer is not going to actually really do much for most of the time you're chinning, but it's nice. And I'm throwing on defensive here for what is the best defense XP in the game. While you're during the throwing chin segment, of course, the time it takes you to set this up will matter, but this is the best defense XP in the game. It'd only be better if I had a better gear on. So, yeah, I want to get defense levels on this account. And so that's what we're here for. Now, here is the thing. You're not done yet. These guys, like I was talking about earlier, they're still regenning their stats, or the chicken. You only need to worry about the chicken. Um, and so you want to drop dark light specs on it every once in a while. You can use BGS, but it's worse. It's the I guess there is pros to the BGS. So the difference is this dark light's going to drain attack, strength, and defense. Which is defense is what we're worried about. We want the defense to stay low because even a few points of defense, especially if you're using Void, are going to lower your DPS by a lot. It will make a difference. But the BGS is going to do significantly more damage to the Mystic, which will obviously reduce the XP you get per time you lure. Also, my XP per hour here in the top's wrong. I need to reset the hourly. And you'll see it go really high. I'll show yeah, let me reset the range too. Oops. Okay, let's see. Range and defense. Okay, now this should be climbing here over the next minute, and you'll see how high the XP really gets. But yeah, so Darklight isn't gonna drain magic. So especially if you're on like maybe a more scuffed account, like an Iron with low stats, you might want to consider using BGS to lower the stats, or like bringing in a lot of food potentially, just so that way the Chinner is not taking as much damage. Because if you die, now every Mystic, it does matter the type of chins you're using, right? Because we have 12 mystics here. Black chins can hit 12 targets. Red chins can hit 11. I believe gray chins can hit 10. That would make sense. But right, so if you're using red chins, there is a mystic in this stack that's not aggroed on the chinner, which does matter because it means that these tanks, you need to figure out, like, the tanks need to stay in the raid, or else they might aggro onto like one of your blockers and just kill them. So, but you can figure out which mystic is not, like, what tank has aggro of the straggler, which is nice if you want to scout your next trade while you're in it. So I'll go over that right now, I guess. So what I like doing is, let's switch to one of the tanks POVs, and here on Runelight, I gotta move my thing. It's a little bit hacky, but I hope it'll work. Yeah, it should. Okay, so we're gonna go to Entity Hider, and so we're going to hide NPCs, right? Now I don't see anything because none of these are on me. But if it was attacking you, like if it was aggroed on you, you would still see it. So like if you hide NPCs on both your tanks, or all of your tanks rather, you can then see which account has one mystic aggroed on it for if you're throwing red chins. So like it's useful if you're an Iron throwing red chins, maybe a hardcore or ultimate. You'd be able to see it then, and then you know not to leave the raid on that account and leave on your other tank so that you can go scout the next raid. Yeah. So like neither of my tanks here have anything aggroed on them because I'm throwing black chins. So these accounts are both good to leave the raid. You also can leave the raid on this Terratron blocker here. like in this position, because like it's blocking something from moving if you're looking at the compass here south, like this way. But you know, it's actually Scaly Bow over here has the aggro, so like there should be no cases where you need to move on this account, the chinning account. This account really should not need to move until the raid is over, until you're ready to leave the raid on every account. So you know, this blocker can also leave. You know, if it was just like a friend helping you, and they're like they want to bounce whatever it is, you know, they're good to leave. You only need these 3 accounts here if you're throwing black chins, and if you're throwing red chins, you need these 3 accounts here plus the tank that has 1 mystic on it. If you probably could get a mystic, like, you know, somewhere over there, and like maybe aggroed on one of the blockers, so it's not gonna cause problems. But I say keep things simple, you know, just more idiot proof. Good for guys like me. Um, but yeah, I think I've covered just about everything at this point. So now, um, yeah, one trick that I don't use, but it can be convenient if you're doing a lot of these raids, is you can keep your blockers unranked in the CC so that when like your chin throwing account, which you do want to be ranked, leaves, these guys automatically leave. So just you have to click a little bit less on those accounts. That can be nice. I don't do it because I just keep all my accounts ranked in this CC, um, and I didn't really want to change it, so that's how I'm doing it. And I'm not even range potted. Look, I wasn't range potted for let's see, a fraction of a minute, and the XP is still fucking insane. You know, I'm at, sorry for swearing. I know YouTube doesn't like that. I'm at 94 range, wearing you know, all this stuff, and I'm getting 850k in both skills. And keep in mind, these are 4-tick chins, so like I'm throwing slower than you would be on rapid. So if you're doing this with range, you're getting like 2 million XP per hour during the throwing segment. And then you might be wondering, how much XP do you actually get per raid? It's, if you're throwing red chins, because you're not going to kill that last chin, it'll be a little bit less, 11/12ths out of what it would be with black chins. But it's about like 750k, I want to say, with black chins. That's just a number off memory. But yeah, so that's 750k XP total, not including hit points. So that'll be like 375k range, 375k defense when you're throwing on defensive. So yeah, and then I'll just to show the defense, probably like one of the last things I do. Monster inspect, skeletal mystic, right? Ah, look, this guy's regen 28 defense. That's really gonna hurt the DPS. So I'm just gonna switch to the Arclight, drop a spec. It's gonna hit a little bit higher. It's fine. Let's see how much it drained. Looks like it drained about 16 defense, so we're gonna drop another. You don't need to like spec transfer yourself or anything. What I like to do is just when I see my specs at 100, drop 2 specs. You know, nice and simple. And yeah, prayer bonus is nice to have in your setup, just so you have to click less potions, and now like go do something else. Just make sure you guy doesn't like die, but you know, you're barely taking damage. And then I just like to heal other myself, so I'm not having to worry about brews or food, which is like super inefficient per slot. Yeah, and then I had one other thing I wanted to get to. I think I said I was almost done, but I actually had one other thing. Let me pause to think. Oh, yes. I wanted to give a little bit more info on the scouting for this. Which I honestly should be at the start of the video, but I'm a chud. So we're gonna talk about scouting now. So right, Inarticulate's one of our tanks. Good to leave the CC. I'm gonna leave on the other tank as well. And so when it comes to scouting, we're gonna have it set to 99. Doesn't go to 100, right? It's the highest it'll go. And we're gonna enter, and we're looking for Mystic start with the good Mystic layout, which is the one that you've been seeing throughout this entire raid, right? You know, this one. It's the one that you see. It's not the one in CM. Yeah. So it's I call it the good Mystic layout. I don't know if there's a better name for it, but yeah, you're gonna want to look for that one with this corner here, like the area where we stack is gonna be in the northwest. So like you can see on the compass, this is the northwest area. And then here in the southeast is where like they all stack up. You can have it to where it's flip-flopped. You can do mystic stacking in other layouts. You know, it's not impossible. There's not something stopping it from being possible. But like these guys are so they hit you so hard, and you can scout while you're throwing chin. So I prefer to just not bother with all that, and I only run this layout. It just keeps things simple for for dummies. Um, yeah, I think that covers everything. I hope this video was helpful. I yeah, I know that there's been like a need for content of this style online. Like a lot of high level players don't actually go in depth on stuff. They just write in discords, and if you don't have an invite for the discord, screwed. Like you might be screwed. So hope this is very helpful for everyone. Thank you for watching if you got this far. Bye bye.